एक लड़का जिसने मां बाप को बताया भी नहीं कि वो एनडीए का फॉर्म भर रहा है, वो लड़का एनडीए का फॉर्म भरता है और सेलेक्ट हो जाता है, फाइटर पायलट बनता है, एस फाइटर पायलट। मिग-21 उड़ाया, मिग-29 उड़ाया, जैगवार उड़ाया, Su-30 MKI उड़ाया, F-16 उड़ाया, T-38 उड़ाया और ड्रैगन स्पेसक्राफ्ट उड़ाया। यह अनुभव किसी और के पास नहीं है। तो व्हाट इज दैट थिंग दैट ड्राइव्स यू कि मुझे करना है, मैं करके दिखाऊंगा?
आप जब इस तरह से बोलते हैं तो बहुत बड़ा लगता है ये। व्हेन यू आर डूइंग इट, जब आप कर रहे होते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली ये नहीं सोचते। जब मैंने मिग-21 उड़ाना शुरू किया था तब ये नहीं सोचा था कि मैं ड्रैगन एयरक्राफ्ट उड़ाऊंगा, तब मिग-21 उड़ा रहे थे। तो जितने अच्छे से आप मिग-21 चला सकते हैं आप वो चलाते हैं, फिर आप ग्रेजुएट करते हैं मिग-29, सुखोई 30 या जो भी। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो लंबी जर्नी आपको इस समय दिखती है, ये जब आप नेविगेट कर रहे होते हैं तो उस समय आप एक ही कदम ले रहे हैं, आप ये सारे कदम एक साथ नहीं लेते। तो इसलिए ये रेट्रोस्पेक्ट, हाइंडसाइट पे ये पूरी स्टोरी इंप्रेसिव लगती है, बट उस समय तो आप वही काम कर रहे हैं जो आपके सामने है। बट ये ज़रूर कहूँगा कि बहुत भाग्यशाली हूँ, बहुत फॉर्चुनेट हूँ कि मुझे मौका मिला पहले इंडियन एयरफोर्स ज्वाइन करने का, जो कि मेरा ड्रीम जॉब था फ्लाइंग, और उसके बाद इतने सारे अलग अलग तरह के एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाई करने का, और उसके बाद इवेंचुअली आपने जैसे कहा कि ड्रैगन स्पेसक्राफ्ट को पायलट करने का, जो कि एक एक्सटेंशन है स्काई का। सबका सपना होता है कि मतलब स्काई के ऊपर आप कहाँ जा सकते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि आई हैव बीन वेरी फॉर्चुनेट और मौका मिला मुझे ये सारी चीज़ें करने का। तो जो ड्राइव करने की आपने बात कही, तो मुझे लगता है कि द ओनली थिंग दैट ड्राइव्स मी इज़ कि जो चीज़ मेरे सामने है अभी, मैं उसको कितने अच्छे से कर सकता हूँ, कैन आई डू दिस बेटर। एंड सो आप वही चीज़ आपके कंट्रोल में है, उसके बियॉन्ड एनीथिंग इज़ नॉट अंडर योर कंट्रोल। तो आप वो करिए, और अगर कोई नई अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलती है या कहीं नया मौका मिलता है, तो अपने घर में सोफे पे बैठ के उसको इवैल्यूएट मत करिए कि ये वर्कआउट करेगा या नहीं करेगा। आप हाँ बोल दीजिए, उसके बाद देखा जाएगा। सो मुझे लगता है कि हाँ बोलने की जो आदत है, अगर आपको जो मौका मिलता है या अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलती है, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है। हम पहले ही सोचने लगते हैं कि शायद ये वर्कआउट करेगा या नहीं करेगा, तो मुझे लगता है ये एनालिसिस नहीं करनी चाहिए। पहले आपको हाँ बोल देना चाहिए, उसके बाद में देखा जाएगा कि वेदर इट वर्क्स आउट और नॉट।
तो आप मतलब हार से डरते नहीं है, यू टेक दैट लीप ऑफ फेथ, लेकिन पूरी लगन के साथ, पूरी मेहनत और निष्ठा के साथ।
आई थिंक हार से डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। आई थिंक हार तो इट इज मैंडेटरी, इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ एनी जर्नी। आप आज मुझे देख रहे हैं कि मैं ड्रैगन स्पेसक्राफ्ट पे पहुंचा हूं, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आई हैव नॉट सफर्ड फेलियर्स और डिफीट्स। लाइक बहुत सारे ऐसे एपिसोड्स रहे हैं मेरे लाइफ में जहाँ पे कुछ चीज़ मैं अटेम्प्ट कर रहा था या कोशिश कर रहा था, वो नहीं हुई। तो मुझे लगता है हार तो एक हार से ही तो आप सीखते हैं। सक्सेस आपको सिखाती थोड़ी है, हार इट इज़ द डिफीट दैट टीचेज यू। क्योंकि आप जब फेल होते हैं, जब किसी चीज़ के लिए आप ट्राई कर रहे हैं और आप सक्सेसफुल नहीं होते, तो आपको समझ में आता है कि अच्छा मैंने यहाँ पे गलती की शायद, या ये गलत किया, और फिर आप दोबारा से उस चीज़ को अटेम्प्ट करते हैं और फिर आप शायद सक्सेसफुल होते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि एक कल्चर बनाने की ज़रूरत है। आई थिंक वी शुड स्टार्ट सेलिब्रेटिंग डिफीट्स रादर देन सक्सेस। और जब हम वो करेंगे ना, तो हम अपने बच्चों को इनकरेज करेंगे कि इट इज़ ओके, फेलियर इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ द प्रोसेस, व्हेन यू फेल यू लर्न। सो दैट इज़ व्हाट वी नीड टू इनकलकेट।
व्हाट अ ब्यूटीफुल थॉट। मतलब हार से डरना नहीं चाहिए, फेलियर इज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू लर्न एंड मूव फॉरवर्ड। लेकिन सपने देखना भी आपने कभी छोड़ा नहीं। तो जो सुपरसोनिक स्पीड पर आपके सपने पूरे हो रहे हैं या हाइपरसोनिक स्पीड पर आपके सपने पूरे हो रहे हैं, व्हाट्स योर नेक्स्ट ड्रीम? अगला सपना क्या है?
दैट्स अ ग्रेट क्वेश्चन, थैंक यू। तो I was in Dragon spacecraft. एक दिन मैं बैठा हुआ था, and this was about 8 to 10 days into the mission, and I was sitting next to the window. That was one of the off-duty days. बल्कि off-duty days था नहीं actually, क्योंकि उस दिन भी there was work to be done, but it was less compared to other days. So I had some time. So I was sitting next to the window, and I was looking outside at Earth. And then a thought came to my mind to do a small video, and it is exactly what the question you said. और उस वीडियो में मैंने ये रिकॉर्ड करना शुरू किया कि जब मैं फ्लाइंग कर रहा था, तब भी आप ऐसे टेरेन्स के ऊपर फ्लाई करते हैं या ऐसी जगहों पे फ्लाई करते हैं जो कि बहुत बहुत सुंदर होती है, बहुत ब्यूटीफुल होते हैं। और मैं श्रीनगर में था पोस्टेड 3 साल के लिए, तो स्पेशली विंटर्स में माउंटेन्स के ऊपर जब आप फ्लाई करते हैं तो कई बार ऐसी चीज़ दिख जाती है जो बिल्कुल इट जस्ट गेट्स एज्ड इन योर माइंड, इट इज़ सो ब्यूटीफुल। एंड तो मैं ड्रैगन में बैठ के उस दिन वो वीडियो रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था, और मैंने यही चीज़ बोली। मैंने कहा कि कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो मेरे दिमाग में एकदम बैठ गई हैं, और मैंने उस समय सोचा था कि शायद इससे सुंदर मैं दुनिया में और कभी कुछ नहीं देखूंगा। मतलब दिस इज़ सो ब्यूटीफुल। और ड्रैगन कैप्सूल में बैठ के जब मैं वापस आई वाज लुकिंग बैक एट अर्थ, आई वाज प्रूवन रॉन्ग कि नहीं, उससे भी सुंदर चीज़ें होती हैं. एंड देन आई शो दैट वीडियो ऑन दैट कैमरा टू पीपल कि नहीं, इट इज़ पॉसिबल. यू नो, आप उस समय क्या सोचते हैं, क्या होता है. एंड देन द थॉट केम इन दैट मोमेंट टू मी, आज भी मुझे वैसा ही लग रहा है कि शायद इससे सुंदर मैं कुछ और नहीं देखूंगा. तो मे बी आई एम प्रूवन रॉन्ग अगेन. यू नो, मे बी यू गो फार्दर, मे बी यू गो टू द मून एंड यू लुक बैक एट अर्थ फ्रॉम देयर. So I think the dreams are something that you should always have. You should always create for yourself. Because ये तो हो गया मिशन, अभी तो बहुत लाइफ बची, अभी क्या करना है. So I think you should always keep looking forward of where you want to go, and you should always have dreams. And I think pursuing of the dream itself is a huge accomplishment and satisfying, you know, in nature, I would say. वहाँ तक पहुँचे नहीं पहुँचे अलग बात है, but आपने जर्नी तो स्टार्ट की अपने ड्रीम की तरफ.
बिल्कुल सही बात है. एंड you've taken that very important first step. So before I come to your dreams and you wanting to get back into space, let me for a moment take you back when you were in space. वो अनुभव कैसा है? What's that experience like? जब आप as a fighter pilot, what's the maximum speed? 2 Mach, 1.8 Mach? What's the maximum?
Yes, you're pretty accurate. 1.8, I would say.
1.8.
Yes.
तो आप ये सोचिए 1.8 मार्क आपने अचीव किया फाइटर फ्लाइंग में, और फिर 28,000 किलोमीटर पर आवर. व्हाट प्रिपेयर्स यू फॉर 28,000 किलोमीटर पर आवर? वो अनुभव कैसा है?
आई वुड से नथिंग प्रिपेयर्स यू फॉर दैट. इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट फीलिंग. जब आप ट्रेनिंग करते हैं, जब आप इसकी तैयारी करते हैं, तो आप काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें सीखते हैं, काफ़ी सारी प्रोटोकॉल सिखाए जाते हैं, ट्रेनिंग सिखाई जाती हैं. लेकिन जो एक्चुअल एक्सपीरियंस है स्पेस फ्लाइट का, वो काफ़ी अलग होता है. इट इज़ नॉट द सेम. एक सेइंग है इन दी स्पेस फ्लाइट कम्युनिटी कि यू आर रेडी फॉर अ स्पेस फ्लाइट मिशन व्हेन यू फिनिश वन. जब आप एक ख़त्म करते हैं, तो जो रियल टाइम एक्सपीरियंस है, जब आप उसको अनुभव आपको लेते हैं उस चीज़ का, तब आपको समझ में आता है कि अच्छा ये तो डिफरेंट है. सो माई ट्रांजिशन फाइटर फ्लाइंग वॉज फैसिनेटिंग. इट वॉज एब्सोल्युटली थ्रिलिंग एंड आई लव्ड एवरी सेकेंड ऑफ इट. और उसी का एक्सटेंशन एक तरह से मैंने अपने मन में सोचा था कि स्पेस फ्लाइट भी होगी. बट जब वो जो आपने वीडियो देखा, जो फाल्कन 9 के जो 9 इंजन्स हैं, जब वो इग्नाइट होते हैं, जब वो लिफ्ट ऑफ होता है, वो सारी एंटिसिपेशन, सारी एक्सपेक्टेशन आपकी, इट जस्ट गोज राइट ऑफ द विंडो. इट इज़ नॉट द सेम. इट इज़ सो मच पावरफुल. इट इज़ everything is vibrating. Even your bones in your body, they are shaking. It is extremely powerful, extremely dynamic event. So you go from 0 to 28,500 kilometers per hour in 8.5 minutes. And that is the kind of acceleration you go through to reach orbit. And then suddenly, nothing, as I said, you know, it just cuts off and you are in microgravity. So I think this entire, you know, the process of the space flight, it is so unique that we as humans have never experienced it. तो जब आप स्पेस में जाते हैं, होता क्या है कि आपकी बॉडी जो है, इट हैज़ ऑलवेज इवॉल्व्ड इन द एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ ग्रेविटी. हमें और कुछ पता नहीं है इसके अलावा. जब आप पहली बार स्पेस में पहुंचते हैं और ग्रेविटी नहीं होती है, तो सडनली योर बॉडी स्टार्ट्स टू रिबेल. इट स्टार्ट्स टू गिव यू साइंस एंड यू नो चेंजेस हैपन. सम एग्जाम्पल्स आई वुड से कि ऑल द ब्लड इन योर लेग, इट स्टार्ट्स गोइंग अप बिकॉज देयर इज नो ग्रेविटी पुलिंग इट डाउन. तो वो आपके, इट गोज इन टू योर हेड. So your head literally becomes bigger, not because you are in space, but physiologically there are changes happening. Your heart slows down because it doesn't have to work against gravity to pump blood to your head. Your spine, you become taller by 3 to 4 inches, you know, in space. But it's not lasting. You come back and you get shorter again. So there is no significant advantage there. So a lot of physiological changes happen. Your body is not used to that environment. But over a period of time, the beauty is that within 3 to 4 days, your body adopts that new environment. It adapts and it becomes so accustomed that that becomes your new normal. So I think that is so fascinating. So nothing can prepare you for this because there is no way to simulate that environment on Earth. So yes, there is a lot of training involved which prepares you for the mission, but the actual mission itself teaches you a lot, which you cannot simulate on ground beforehand.
अमेजिंग. अच्छा ये बताइए, यू कैरिड आउट 11 एक्सपेरिमेंट्स इन स्पेस. तो 11 जो आपने एक्सपेरिमेंट कैरी आउट किए, जिसमें 7 शायद इंडिया स्पेसिफिक है, इसरो स्पेसिफिक. क्या है वो एक्सपेरिमेंट्स एंड हाउ विल दोज एक्सपेरिमेंट्स बेनिफिट द कॉमन पीपल ऑफ अ कंट्री? हालांकि ये प्रश्न मेरा नहीं है, ये प्रश्न प्रधानमंत्री आपसे पूछ चुके हैं.
जी प्रधानमंत्री जी मुझसे पूछ चुके हैं, उन्होंने मुझे मैं जब ऑर्बिट में था तभी होमवर्क दे दिया था। तो वहाँ पे it's a very relevant question for us. It's not India centric experiments. It is these 7 experiments were conceived, designed and developed by the Indian researchers in collaboration with the team from ISRO. So more than what was done, imagine this, that these researchers had never had access to microgravity research. कभी हुआ ही नहीं, ये पहली बार हुआ है. This has happened for the first time that these researchers have got access to microgravity platform. The research has been conducted, the results have been brought back, and now they are evaluating. So yes, there is a lot of science that we have learned from this mission, which I will cover, but I think more than that, the accomplishment is that we have opened the doors of microgravity research for our country through this mission, and which will now continue to happen because they have understood how it is done. So the challenging thing is that if you do some experiment here on ground and you were to replicate that experiment in space, it's not a simple one-on-one transfer. You know, it becomes extremely complex because of the environment change. So everything has to be thought of: small caps, syringes, needles, containment. Everything becomes extremely challenging. So this process has been understood. Now, to come to the experiments itself, that what I did was the researchers came up with brilliant ideas, and all the experiments were designed keeping in mind our country's goal of entering this new domain of human spaceflight missions. Mission Gaganyan, Bharatiya Antariksh Station, and thereafter going to the moon. So all these research experiments were aimed towards achieving that. That was the thread that was joining all of them.
तो इसको एक एक करके दो के बारे में I'm very keen to talk to you about. एक जो स्टेम सेल रिसर्च आपने की, मतलब आप ये सोचिए, एस फाइटर पायलट, टॉप गन, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस का ग्रेजुएट, मतलब इज देयर समथिंग दैट यू डोंट डू? मतलब व्हाट अ सुपरस्टार. लेकिन स्टेम सेल रिसर्च एंड स्पेशली सीनियर सिटीजन्स हमारे देश में, और ये हमारा कल्चर है अपने बड़ों को देखना कि वो जो सपना है जीवे में शरदा शतम, that we live to be 100 and a healthy 100. How does this research work there?
So the research what Gaurav is talking about, what I did was, it was a research on stem cell. Basically what happens when you go to space in microgravity, there is no load, the gravity is not there. So your muscles are not under any kind of load. So they start to degenerate. They are not being used. So you start to lose muscle mass and your muscles start to degenerate. And that is a known phenomena. That is why astronauts have to exercise really hard every day, 2 hours a day for long duration missions. So the research was aimed, the Indian researchers came up with the idea that can we add some supplements, which would prevent this muscle degeneration or which would enhance the rate of recovery after injury. So this was the bottom line. This was the research that was conducted. We will see the results, they will going to publish it. But how it helps us, so this is not just for astronauts, when you go to space, but on ground as well. All the people who are dealing with muscle degenerative diseases, in old age we have these issues. So if this is proven to be successful there in space, it has its potential application back here on Earth. And we can administer this right away to the patients that we have, to the people in that old age population. So I think this has the potential benefit. So the unique part about conducting research in microgravity or in space, what you are doing is you are trying to create life in an environment where it should not exist. There is no air, no water, no protection. So when you try to do that, you come up with solutions which solve the problems that you have on Earth, which you didn't even think of. आपको पहले से पता भी नहीं होता कि ये इस चीज के लिए हम use कर सकते हैं. But you eventually do, because history has proven itself that we have found so many solutions. So the power tools that you use, the Velcro that you use, the GPS that you use, all of them are necessarily born out of that requirement of, because somebody was traveling to space and that was a necessity. So this has become a common day thing now, but at that point of time we didn't know how it will benefit us. So yeah.
The second research, again, which will have a very major impact, I'm told, on Earth, is microalgae. You worked on that. भारत की खाद्य सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से अगर देखें, how is this research so important in your view?
Again, same concept. Food is very important when you are up in space. जगह नहीं है. There is no space. मतलब there is a lot of space in space, but where you are living, आप जहाँ रह रहे हैं वहाँ जगह नहीं है. तो how do you enhance the nutritional density or calorie density of the food that you're carrying? So the research that is being conducted is being conducted with an aim कि हम छोटी से छोटी जगह में कम से कम resources में maximum nutrition और caloric density कैसे pack करें. So microalgae are a very good source of edible food as well as biomass for fuel generation as well. It is possible in both cases. So that was the research that was being done to see how do they respond to this environment of microgravity, and if it is possible to cultivate them and then use it for long duration space flights and everything. Now, having said that, this is a use in space, but how does it help us here? Now, if this works there, it works here also, because this essentially solves the problem of food security. Like you said, आपने जो बोला कि हम अगर मान लीजिए कभी we are dealing with a crisis environment or natural disasters are happening, so these are the possible ways we can ensure food security even in those difficult times. So, like I said, whatever you do up there has a potential application back here on Earth as well.
Amazing. So the fact that you mentioned that in space, there is very restricted space. Describe to us what was like living at the International Space Station and the size. How big is the International Space Station?
It is big. It is, what is said is it is equivalent to a 6 BHK house. That's the kind of space it is available. But the main difference I would say is that the concept of space for you changes when you go to space. Like, हम बैठे हैं इस room में. This is essentially a 3D room. We have walls, we have ceilings, we have intervening space in between, but we are still 2D creatures. Like, we will walk on the floor, we will sit on a chair, and this is. But if this was to be replicated in space, half of you would be sitting on the ceiling, half of you would be on the wall, and I would be sitting. So it is all distributed. You utilize the space in a very different way. So the mind switches from utilization of space from a 2D to 3D concept. Another example I would give you, which was very unique and interesting to me, was when you go to the microgravity for the first time, your brain is still geared up for gravity. So everything is falling at the same time. That is how you experience microgravity. So nothing is falling relatively. So if I was in space station and I was to leave this mic here, it would stay here. It would not fall. But this, you don't get used to this when you go to space. So I remember in the first few days, if I'm sitting and I'm holding something and I have to work, I would find someone, can you hold this for me? And I would give them the mic, and they would also hold because they're also traveling to space for the first time. Now what happens is, over a period of days, 7-8 days, you get used to this. That, you can leave stuff and it will not fall. It will be right there. So you leave stuff, you do whatever you have to, pick it up and then go. Now the problem is you come back to Earth. So when you come back to Earth, I remember the first night I was sitting on my bed and I was working on the laptop. And it was very instinctive, and I just closed the laptop and I just took it to the side and I left it. and as soon as I left it, I realized, this is an ISRO-issued laptop. Fortunately, nothing happened. This was carpeted. But I'm saying the switch, the environment is so different. It is the brain gets used to that, and then you have to rewire it to understand the environment, which is how different it is. So there is a lot of space. There is a lot of different challenges or different ways that you navigate that space, and that takes time. Some few days, 4 to 5 days, when you get used to that. Exactly.
Amazing. अच्छा, जो हमारा अगला स्पेस मिशन है, यानी जो भारत का स्पेस मिशन है, गगनयान, it just sounds so fascinating that your teammates, they were telling you, Shuks, when are we going up there? So when are we going up there?
Very soon, I would say. It was already in works. We were selected for Gaganyan mission. My mission, the Axiom 4 mission, is also kind of a stepping stone towards Gaganyan mission, because by being a part of a human space mission end-to-end, you learn things which you would otherwise not know. And so all of that, we have already established a process wherein all that information is going back into the system, and we have already started refining, everything that we were doing. Human space missions are inherently very complex. They are not just a delta change from executing a satellite mission. It is not a bigger or better class of satellite that you're launching. You're launching a space capsule with human lives on board. So it changes the scale and the magnitude of work that is involved. So these missions are challenging to achieve. And before we send the actual mission, we need to prove the system by sending a lot of unmanned or test missions which will give us the confidence, that we have enough reliability in these missions to happen. So I'm saying we will start seeing that very soon. As of now, the official timeline is 2027, that is being quoted for the H1 mission, when the humans will go. And so hopefully it will happen, and we will see a lot of test missions happening between now and 2027.
This sounds so fascinating. How many of you will go up, and how many people go up? How long will the Indian Gaganyan mission be in space?
That is still being decided. Like I said, there are a lot of factors that have to be considered. How long, what are the resources? Because this is slightly different from what I did. What I did in Axiom 4 mission, that I flew on a proven vehicle by an agency that has been flying astronauts regularly to a space station, which has been operational for 25 years now. So there is a lot of heritage and background. So it is operational. What we are doing is a prototype mission. It is a new mission. We are trying it for the first time. So it will not be the same in duration or capacity of what you can do. So it will be small steps initially, and when we get confidence, we will expand this to our own space station and everything. So how many will go and for how long, I really can't say right now. That is still being decided. But what I can tell you that this will be launched from the Indian soil on an Indian rocket in an Indian capsule with an Indian sitting inside the Indian capsule.
Amazing. I mean, this is so fascinating. You've trained both at the Yuri Gagarin Center, Moscow, to be a cosmonaut, and you've trained at NASA and SpaceX to be an astronaut, and you are an astronaut. How are both the trainings, the Russian training and the American training, different? What are best practices that we would adopt for India?
So post selection, we went to Russia for about a year and a half for training at the Russian center. And we did a basic cosmonaut training on the Soyuz, which is still flying to the International Space Station. The training in Russia is, it's theoretically very intensive. You study in details about everything, the background. The theoretical subjects are also taught. Essentially, what you are doing when you're sitting in the machine, you are operating that machine. So you have to be an operator level knowledge. So that is, but they went deep into the theory as well, which is, I think, somewhat similar to our culture, that we also like to study and, understand the basics of what we are trying to do. But eventually, they also come to the operational thing, because you have to learn to operate that machine. So it would be theory, simulators, practice again and again, and then when they feel you are ready, you would be going through several evaluations, and then you finally get cleared for the flight. But most of the time, 70 to 80% of the time is spent in training for scenarios that simulate what to do if something goes wrong, the off-nominal scenarios. And that is pretty similar to, I think, in aviation as well. You are used to it, because nominally when you do things, everything is known, there is enough time for you to do. But when something goes wrong, how do you react to it? And it is difficult to simulate that. Now, in the US also, the concept is slightly different. It is very distributed. The training is very distributed across centers, and it happens in bits and pieces. And only towards the later part of, closer to the mission, everything kind of comes together and forms a story. Two different ways of achieving the same thing. And I think both are very effective, because by the time you're reaching the mission, you feel confident either way. So when we were finishing our basic cosmonaut training in GCTC, I was very confident that, if I was to sit in this capsule tomorrow and go, I was confident in my abilities. And same thing happened with the Dragon as well. So I think the approaches are different, but the intent is same, to prepare a person for going to space well, so that they're able to not only deal with what to do when things are right, but also to tackle with any situation, when things go wrong.
So I think that's one advantage when you can fly both the MiG-21 and the Jaguar. So you know the Soviet system and you know the Western system.
Yeah, I think we are experts that way. We understand everything, all the systems all over the world. We have a mix, a really good mix. And it is good to see, because it gives you a perspective of how to do the same thing in a different way. The implementation can be different, but it ends up achieving the same objective.
After Gaganyan, and I find this so fascinating, that after Gaganyan, our next dream is Bharat Antariksh Space Station, our own space station. How will that be different from the International Space Station and I believe the Chinese Space Station?
So the work has already started on the Bharatiya Antariksh Station. So conceptually, I would say it is similar, in the sense that it is an orbiting lab around the Earth, which will allow us to conduct science and also to prove technologies that are going to be required for our future missions, like going to Moon or eventually, Mars. And so that is what it does. When you put something up in space, you can send systems, you can send, the technology that you want to fly to further away missions and prove them over a period of time, which gives you confidence, okay, this is working, this is what we can do. Now, design-wise, obviously, we are making it today. ISS started its construction in 1998. So a lot of technologies that were available back then, we have much better technology available now. So I think all of those will go into the designing of our own space station, which the designers at ISRO is already, they are working on designing this new concept. But inherently, it will remain similar in concept, as in it would be modular in nature. It will be one module at a time, which will be added. And, they will all have a purpose. And eventually, it will grow to a much bigger, station. Much bigger, I'm not comparing it with the ISS, but not much bigger than a single module that we have right now. So the plans are in place and the teams are already working, and hopefully very soon we will see the first module being launched for Bharatiya Antariksh Station as well.
Bharatiya Antariksh Space Station. I mean, Bharatiya Antariksh Station is so cool. अंतरिक्ष से भारत कैसा लगता है? ये एक प्रश्न हमेशा से मेरे मन में था, क्योंकि when we were kids, we saw, Wing Commander राकेश शर्मा से सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा. आपको कैसा लगता था? We have a video of that. कि भारत अंतरिक्ष से कैसा दिखता है? Let me see if we can play that, for you, and then you describe that to us.
Yeah.
Can we play that AV of what does India look like from space?
Can we pause it actually? Can we pause it? Yeah. Before we play, I would like to explain, because maybe then it will make more sense to you. It's an upside down video, just because the window that is there, you're looking down, so you're mostly head down when you're looking at Earth. So that is how the camera is set up. So this is what you would see. On the bottom part of the video, you will see the night sky, wherein the stars would be there. And the top portion is the Earth. And this is the night pass. We were passing from the Indian Ocean, crossing India from, southwest to northeast. And you would first see Maldives, and thereafter we would pass over India. You would be able to see the city of Bangalore, which would be the most brightly lit city that you would see. And you would also see flashes, purple flashes all over the country. And these purple flashes are essentially thunderstorms. This is monsoon season, so there were a lot of thunderstorms all over India, and that is what you will see. And towards the end, you will see blue light coming in from the end of the video, which is essentially an orbital sunrise that you're witnessing. So you will see the sun rising up at the end. So maybe now, if you play, it would be great. Yeah. This is the city of Bangalore. This is the sunrise.
वो अनुभव, what's that experience like कि आप अंतरिक्ष में हैं और आप पृथ्वी को देख रहे हैं और अपने देश को देख रहे हैं?
It's very hard to put it in few words of what that experience is like, but if I have to choose a few words to describe, I would say out of this world, literally. It's fascinating to see. It is a perspective that you don't get. You've never seen there. So even when you fly, you are pretty close to the Earth, and you don't see planet as a whole when you go outside. But when you go out and when you look at the Earth, it gives a very different perspective. You have been there, and I gave this analogy to someone. We were talking about this last year, that ये आप लोग भी relate करेंगे शायद कि when you are a small kid and you start going to school, to everybody in school, your home is your identity. You come from such and such home, your parents and your families. When you leave your school and you go to a college or, a different place, your school becomes your identity. I'm from such and such school, and you introduce to you people like that. You leave your city, go to some other city, then today also this happened, I'm from Lucknow, or somebody says that I'm from so-and-so city. So the city becomes your identity. When you leave your country, you go to other country, like I was in US training last year. So I am from India. So my country becomes my identity. And then this was the next step. When you leave the planet and you go outside, your planet becomes your identity as a whole. So I think this shift that happens, it is very, very strong and powerful when you look at it from the outside, that this is your home. And you don't zoom in. You don't look at Earth as if, this is India, this is Lucknow, this is where I live. Like you look at the planet and say, this is where I live, this is the place. So the borders dissolve, it appears whole as a planet, as our home. This is a very big feeling. And the size or the scale of how big Earth is, that is very important. It is unmistakable, I think. And just the insignificance, it is very strong. Like you are just 5 feet, 6 feet, and you're looking at this huge ball, where everybody, 8 billion plus people are living. And everybody you've ever read about has been there only. So I think this is a very strong feeling that you get, when you look at it from the outside.
That oneness.
That oneness, yeah. The oneness of the planet as a whole. And we are all being, this is humanity. This is all of us together living in that planet, at the same place.
So, that beautiful concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it just reflects. I mean, when you were saying this, that's the thought that came to my mind.
Yeah, that is exactly that. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one, and this is how we should treat it. Because this is the only resource we have. This is one big spaceship. Earth is one big spaceship where all of us are living. It is protecting us from everything outside. So I think this is the home for all of us. It's just that when you start zooming in, when you keep coming down, you go to a particular country, land at a particular place, in a particular city, in a particular home. So when you go down, you lose the sight of the bigger picture, of how it is all the same. And that is what the space as a perspective gives you.
It just widens your horizons so much. How soon do you see us on the moon, experiment, and then use moon as a launch pad to get to Mars?
How soon would be, I think, we are in the initial phase of developing everything that is required for us to get there. It would not be right for me to say a timeline because I think, these missions take time, they are challenging. But I am so glad and happy that we already have it laid down in our space policy that we are going to have an Indian footprint on moon by 2040. The time is also, it established. And I remember when I was a kid, and you mentioned Rakesh Sharma sir when he went up to space, we heard his stories and his, iconic statement, "Sare jahan se acha." But the thought of becoming an astronaut never really occurred to me because we didn't have a space program. And what was beautiful about my mission this time, that while I was in space, I had 3 interactions with kids. One was live and 2 through radio, ham radio. And in all of these interactions, there were kids who asked me, not what I'm doing on station, how do you live, how do you eat, not this question. They asked, how do I become an astronaut? And I think that is the biggest win of this mission. Kids are already thinking that they can be, and they can, because we have a plan, we have a program, and we are going in that direction. And so I don't think it would be right for me to comment on the timeline, but what I'm so happy about that we have a plan and we are going there, and it would take the entire nation or the national resources for us to get there. And I'm loving the excitement and enthusiasm people are showing after this mission.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the country is very excited, and the country has this space ecosystem that's coming up. And globally, we intend, we're moving forward in a direction that the world and India are quite synced in this, isn't it?
It is true. Last year, when I was traveling all over the globe, wherever I would go, there was such an excitement about India that what are you doing in space? When are you launching Gaganyan? What are we doing? Actually, my crewmates, they have taken a written undertaking from me that whenever you launch Gaganyan, we have to be there to see the launch. Absolutely. And then after that, how soon can you fly us on your capsule? So I think there is a lot of excitement for us in the global space community. India is very well respected. ISRO has achieved significant missions in the past and have proven that they can do much more with much less. and that has been the theme for us. So I am very excited to be here at this, in this time in our journey of space exploration. I think it is really a golden period for us.
This is the golden period for us, and Nabhas Prisham Deeptam, you've touched the sky with glory, you've touched space with glory, and we wish you all the best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
a part
Thank
of this India Today conclave. Many thanks.